15 seconds until airtime.
The following is a presentation of Learfield IMG College.
This is Duck Insider.
Give it to Verdell. He's got the first down and go! Duck fans start celebrating. Oregon is the 2019 Pac-12 champion. The 2020 Rose Bowl champion.
Richardson, another open three. Good! Duarte dribbles and slams with the right hand. For the third time in the last 5 years, the Ducks are Pac-12 champions. Outright champs.
Foley three. Goal! Foley ball. Out Shelley. Three ball. Goal! Regular season champions and now Pac-12 tournament champions.
Welcome to Duck Insider.
We're just getting started.
This is Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College. Presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Better banking, local solutions. Live from the Country Financial Studio, here's Joey Mack.
Thank you, and thanks for joining us, and a very happy Tuesday as we get ready for another edition of Duck Insider. George Troester, the Director of Performance and Sports Science, is going to join us. In fact, we're sitting in the Country Financial Studio, second floor of the Casanova Center. We're actually like right above where Jordan's office is in the Marcus Mariota Sports Performance Center. We sat down with Jordan a little while ago and talked to him about his career and what goes on a day-to-day basis in the Marcus Mariota Sports Performance Center. Really looking forward to having that interview for you. And the funny thing is, if I go like this, we might actually have just alerted Jordan that the interview is about to start with a pound on the floor. So this is going to be a fun interview. I'm really looking forward to getting into it with you. Also, a few things to talk about before we dive into what goes on in the Marcus Mariota Sports Performance Center. Last night, the Athletes Unlimited softball closing ceremonies was pretty cool to see, and Gwen Savekis went yard last night in the final game of the Athletes Unlimited season. We had Gwen on the show a little while ago, and it was great to catch up with her, and that's been pretty cool to watch the Athletes Unlimited. So congratulations to that league for a great start, and the 4 Ducks that participated in it. We've got great Ducks coming up tonight. Tight ends will be featured. The best tight ends in the history of Oregon football on our Great Duck Show tonight, 5 o'clock across the Oregon Sports Network and on the various Oregon football social media channels, as well as the Go Ducks YouTube page as well. This is also a fun announcement that I get to make. At the University of Oregon, in conjunction with the Duck Athletic Fund, with some different coaches, Rob Mosley, editor-in-chief of GoDucks.com, and of course here on Duck Insider, we're starting a new segment called Bring 'em Back. Essentially what we're doing is asking former student athletes who maybe we've lost touch with and different alums from all different sports and backgrounds. We're going to either do a story on them on GoDucks.com or we're going to have an interview with them here on Duck Insider. Tomorrow on the show, to kick off the Duck Insider portion of the Bring 'em Back campaign, Ednisha Curry is going to join us, a former Oregon women's basketball standout. She played for Jody Runge and Bev Smith. She is now at UMaine, the only female full-time assistant coach in NCAA Division I men's basketball, and she is a Duck alum. We're going to talk with Coach Eddie as she goes by on the show tomorrow as part of our Bring 'em Back campaign. And today you can check out the first story written version from Rob. He wrote about Larry Rose, who played with the likes of Norm Van Brocklin, George Shaw, had some amazing stories to tell. Encourage you to check it out. Can learn about Oregon football alum and great Duck, honestly, Larry Rose in Rob's piece as part of Bring 'em Back on GoDucks.com. Coming up also, we have our Toyota OSN Classics. Saturday, 11 a.m., we're going to change up the plan a little bit because now we're anticipating this new look 2020 football season. We're actually going to shift gears, and instead of doing all 12 of the wins from last year for Oregon football, we're going to pare it down and do enough to get through the month of October so we can also have our Duck football fix. And then when we get into live games in the first week of September, it's going to be perfect because we will have 4 more OSN Classics for you presented by Toyota. 1 this week at 11 a.m., the Washington win. Ducks were down by 2 touchdowns in that game last year. Remember, up in Seattle? Came back, won the game. We have that for you coming up on Saturday at 11 a.m. We'll be live from the Autzen broadcast booth, socially distanced and spaced out, breathing enough chemicals after we clean everything about 3 times that it'll be a great broadcast. Going to be a great broadcast. In all seriousness, though, it's been a little bit tricky, as you can imagine, with myself and Terry Johns. Normally, we set up and kind of engineer stuff together. Terry runs the board during the game. I'd run a lot of the cabling. And then Jerry and Jordy call the game. Well, this has been kind of an interesting test run as we've done our hour-long pregame show and we've relived these 2019 games with you. It's been tricky just to figure out the way that we operate, and it's been, to me, a great example of we can all find a way to still operate. It's different, don't get me wrong, but we found a way to operate and staying distanced apart. I mean, Jerry and Jorgie, actually, I think by our eyeball measurement, they were about 9 feet apart from each other. Terry and I are about 7 feet apart from each other as we're doing these broadcasts with masks on, and it's different, don't get me wrong. And things are going to look a lot different as we get into this new look 2020 season. But it's doable, and I'm really excited for it. Being at Autzen Stadium kind of got my football juices flowing again, and I hope that you'll join us for our Toyota OSN Classics across the Oregon Sports Network. Starting at 11 a.m., we'll have that Washington comeback win coming up this Saturday. So that's the plan. So obviously some things changing because now we're getting ready for a football season and a schedule that we hope to have as soon as possible, as soon as everything gets worked out. Maybe this week. Larry Scott said that maybe we'd have one this week. I hope so. It's going to be fun to kind of break that down and chew on that schedule a little bit. Things are going to look a little different, maybe even a lot different, but it still feels like football, and that's exciting. And speaking of football, Javon Holland, yesterday, announcing over the weekend, we talked about it a bit yesterday, I should say, but announcing over the weekend that he's heading to the NFL. So to Javon Holland, thank you, sir. Thanks for being a Duck, and good luck at the next level. We went back into the archives, and the last time that he was on the Oregon Football Coaches Show, we actually learned why he goes by the nickname Hollywood. He's at Ollie Hollywood Vaughn on Twitter. Well, let's just say it's a funny story how he got that nickname. He talked with us on the Coaches Show about it. So I'm going to ask you, who is Javon Holland?
Well, usually when people ask me that, some people expect this, long, drawn-out explanation of who I am. But I like to just explain, things that I do because, things that you do are how people describe you. So I'd say that Javon Holland is just like a chill kid, just likes to hang out with his friends like any other kid would, play video games a lot, watch movies, paint, play football here and there, dabble with that, nothing serious, but
Nothing serious.
But yeah, I just, I'm just a regular kid.
You're on Twitter at Hollywood Vaughn.
Yes.
Where'd that come from?
So the Hollywood nickname came from my father. His nickname in college was Hollywood. And as time progressed, I was like, I'm gonna just go ahead and take his nickname because he says I look like him. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna just take your nickname too. So that kind of just came to be when I came to college. I changed it to Hollywood 2.0. That's like the 2.0 part.
Yeah.
Right? And and then ever since then, people just started, calling me that. And I feel like I kind of have that, energetic personality too. So it kind of fits.
Did Hollywood Senior, was he good with that? Like he was cool with you stealing his nickname?
When I first changed it, because I used to try to go by Legendary Vaughn, and then I changed it to Hollywood Vaughn. He was like, "Whoa, bro, relax." that's me, man. And then now he just calls me 2.0 a lot, which is surprising because I kind of like it, but he likes it now.
Gives you a little peek into the personality of Javon Holland, and wishing you the very best at the next level, sir, because I'll tell you what, Javon Holland was sure fun to watch in a Duck uniform, wasn't he? And man, it brings me back. I mean, that wasn't that long ago he was sitting in this chair. I mean, about a year ago now, I guess, that he was sitting in that chair over to our left, and we're not doing it that way anymore. In fact, today we were just talking about with the Football Coaches Show, what are we going to do? How's it going to look? It's going to look a little different, and we're all kind of preparing for that, and we're figuring it out as we go. But to Javon Holland, great personality. Wishing him the very best at the next level. All right, we're going to get a quick timeout. When we come back, taking you inside the Marcus Mariota Sports Performance Center. The Director of Performance and Sports Science, Jordan Troester, is going to join us. He has only been on the job a couple months. Started a new job in a pandemic. We're going to talk to him about that as Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union, comes back inside the Country Financial Studio after this on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union. Join in. OnPointCU.com. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
As my family continued to grow, I realized I'd have to replace my beloved Jeep with something that has, well, more seats. I'm Jason Hines, Country Financial Rep and father of 7. Whether you're upgrading from your sporty ride with no room for a car seat or finally replacing your well-loved beater that still has a cassette player, you'll want the right protection for your new car. Work with a Country Financial Rep like me and get the protection you need at a price you can afford. Learn more at TakeSimpleSteps.com or contact a local Country representative.
Don't go anywhere. Duck Insider continues after these messages on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
Learfield IMG College.
Most of my family, they never graduated high school, so I'm trying to break that barrier.
My daughter Brooklyn was also a motivation for me to go back to school.
Every day after work, went straight to school, and it paid off.
At age 26, Kareem finished his high school diploma.
I could not have done it alone.
I see the future is really bright for me.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
You took the first step and quit smoking, but even former smokers may still be at risk for lung cancer. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know about a new low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early. It takes only 60 seconds and could save your life. You took the first step, now take the next. Visit SaveByTheScan.org for a simple quiz to see if you're eligible and talk to your doctor about screening. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
Joey Mack welcoming you back to Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union inside the Country Financial Studio, and getting ready for great Ducks tonight, 5 o'clock. We're talking tight ends as we go through the best tight ends to ever don the Duck uniform. Jerry Allen, Mike Jorgensen, Terry Johns, and also 10 Any of the Fans, Dusty Hara is going to join us this evening. Dusty's done sidelines when I've had some basketball conflicts, and I can tell you Dusty is a huge Russ Francis fan, so I'm really looking forward to Dusty telling us about why he loves Russ Francis so much. So I'm giving one away. We're going to feature Russ Francis on our Great Duck Show tonight. And today's Duck Insider is brought to you by North Fork Public House, open for dine-in and takeout, northforkeugene.com. All right, Jordan Troester. Fascinating story. Jordan's got a great 2-minute life story that you're going to hear. We're going to talk about the growth of the sports performance and sports science industry, the way that Oregon has been very cutting edge with the Marcus Mariota Sports Performance Center. And for Jordan, starting his job in the midst of the pandemic. Crazy. And we really got to know him well. And I want to make this, for this week, our Oregon Imaging Center's inside look, going inside the Marcus Mariota Sports Performance Center with the man in charge, Jordan Troester. This is going to be a fun interview, going behind the curtain, if you will, on the Marcus Mariota Sports Performance Center. And it's my pleasure to welcome somebody to the show that I actually have not met in person. That doesn't happen very often on Duck Insider, but that's what happens when you start a new job during a pandemic. Jordan Troester is our guest. He is in charge of the Marcus Mariota Sports Performance Center. And Jordan, first I got to say welcome to Oregon, and let's maybe begin with, what's the process been like onboarding here at Oregon with everything going on? I mean, what's that been like for you?
Yeah, well, it's been unusual to say the least. I mean, we've been making the most of it. My family has actually gotten settled really well, and we love it, but it was hectic. That's for sure. Obviously, just looking for a place to live, the logistics of moving, getting settled, all that kind of stuff has been crazy. And then, yeah, from an actual onboarding standpoint, I think the number of people I've met in person is very small, but lots of virtual meetings, which may be the future for the near future at least. So we might as well all get used to it.
Yeah, I think that you're right on that. I think we all have a little bit of Zoom fatigue, but it might become more of the norm moving forward. So, okay, one thing that everybody has to do the first time they come on the show, Jordan, is you have to tell us your 2-minute life story. So the 2-minute life story of Jordan Troester.
2 minutes. Born in Iowa. My family moved to Virginia, though, when I was youngish, and so grew up there. Always loved sports, played just about everything growing up: football, basketball, baseball, wrestling, track and field, a bit of everything. Loved sports, always wanted to play college football. That was my dream. And ended up going to the College of William & Mary. So it was, what do they call it, Division I AA when I was there back in the day. But played tight end at William & Mary and studied kinesiology. I always loved training. Figured I'll be a sports med doc or a physical therapist or something like that. Did an internship and decided that wasn't for me, and got into strength and conditioning after I graduated. Strength and conditioning started with, young high school athletes. Eventually I moved to LA and did an internship at a place called Exos, working with NFL Combine athletes and things like that. Moved on from that into kind of some private sector roles, training athletes, a lot of professional baseball players, a lot of football players and basketball players. Also in that time, the company I was working for developed some sports testing technology that was then licensed out by pro teams, and made some connections through that actually took me overseas to Australia, and worked as a strength and conditioning coach in professional rugby in Sydney for about 4 years. And while I was there, sports science is very much a part of, just an integrated part of the landscape over there, and got involved in some research that led to me actually completing a PhD and becoming as much of a sports scientist as a strength coach. And my wife and I went to Australia with 2 suitcases, and we came back with 2 kids and 8 suitcases. So we were ready to get a little bit closer to home after having 2 kids over there, and came back in 2018 to Vegas and joined the Golden Knights, and spent a couple years as a sports science and performance coach with the Golden Knights before landing in Eugene. So I probably went over 2 minutes, but that's the story.
That was actually pretty dead on. By my count, you were at about 2 minutes and 12 seconds. So I say that's pretty solid. We actually, I have to tell you, and we've been talking about this more and more, it seems like now, we have a leaderboard actually of who gets closest to 2 minutes in the studio. And I think you're in the top 5 right now, actually. All
right, I'll take that.
That's pretty good. I mean, that's pretty well done. Jordan Troester is our guest. So one, I have to tell you, I'm a Sharks fan. So, not stoked on what you did. Yeah, but you know what? Hey, the night story was awesome, and I do kind of want to ask you about that. Just what was that ride like, being part of an expansion team with the NHL, and just give us some perspective on what that ride was like for a couple years.
So I get that question a lot, and I have to be honest in that I showed up at the end of the ride. So I came for season 2 and caught just the coattails of all the excitement from season 1. But what I can say is that the community of fans in Vegas is just unbelievable. And, a combination of factors, but the success they had that first season, and just the environment in that city and their desire for a professional team, the way the team and the players connected with that city early on made it a really special place to be. Obviously Eugene is the same in the way where the community just gets behind the team and things like that, but it makes it a lot of fun when you're working like that. And the second thing is starting an organization from scratch. Every single person in their roles across it, from ticketing to marketing to, equipment, everybody was chosen with a vision and a purpose in mind. And as a result, everybody had a little bit of something to prove. Yeah. And so I think it's not, there weren't people who were there in their role for 20 years and, eventually nobody really knows what they do anymore. It's just like, oh yeah, he's a nice guy and he's always in that corner office over there. I mean, he must do something important. Everybody was there for a purpose and had a really contribution every single day. And I think that's a big part of their success.
We're talking with Jordan Troester. He is the Director of Performance and Sports Science at the Marcus Mariota Sports Performance Center. We're going to talk more with him coming up. We asked him about the growth of that industry and just the value that it has for individual student-athletes. A 3-part interview that we have for you coming up the rest of today. I want to take a couple of your questions. Gary Clayton, can I be a sponsor on the show? Absolutely. Gary, yes. I'll tell you, I mean, we've often joked, actually, that, like, so what if somebody like Scott Phillips was just like, hey, I want to be a sponsor. Just put my face and my name up on the scoreboard. Like,
I would do that.
I mean, nothing says.
I would do that.
Yeah, nothing says that we can't do that.
Right?
I don't think. Like, if it was Scott Phillips LLC.
Why not?
I mean, you have a production company, don't you? Why can't it just be the production company?
Because I don't have any money to sponsor anybody with.
All right. Well, also, can you show your camera shot one more time? And everybody needs to see that we still have Dillard 1, Ulmer 0 up on the
where's Coach?
On that whiteboard.
Where's Coach?
So, Matt Ulmer, if you're watching,
there it is.
Yep. So
what's up?
Just throwing that out there. For those of you that don't know, Coach Dillard made us, not made, we sort of embraced, but she educated us that she is 1-0 right now in a specific realm of their competitiveness. So, I'm about to get a text from Ulmer. I'm going to get one at least in the next 24 hours. Kyle asked, Joey, sorry I'm late. That's all right. I'm late all the time. Thoughts on Oregon ranked 14th a month out from game 1 in the AP rankings? Yeah, we talked about it a little bit yesterday. Here's the deal. The rankings are great. Don't get me wrong. Number 14 after the Ducks were inside the top 10. That's fine. But I will say that just looking at the way that a lot of the AP voters were distributed, some of them didn't vote for Pac-12 teams, and I think a lot of that is the Pac-12 just hasn't started its season yet. It's just it is what it is. I think right now I'm more curious to see what the ranking is after the Ducks play a game in November. Or maybe even the week before. Like, do Pac-12 teams re-enter a lot of AP voters' minds? I don't know. At the end of the day, again, they're cool. I think coaches would tell you that they don't really care what their ranking is in the middle of the season. They just care what it is at the end of the season. One thing that is going to be fascinating for me, though, and this is going to be true of record books and individual records and really anything apart from maybe an individual game record, like, is there just going to be an asterisk in everybody's record book for the 2020 season? There will be, obviously, right? Like, I think we all kind of expect that. But, like, the Ducks have had a really impressive streak of being in the AP top 25. Now, the streak of consecutive weeks being in the top 25 did end a few years ago, but the total number of weeks over the last decade that the Ducks have been in the top 25 is one of the best in the country. In fact, Oregon men's basketball and Oregon football have combined for the most wins in those two sports over the last decade. I mean, that's a heck of an accomplishment. And really, that's a shout-out to Dana Altman and what he's done. But in addition, it's what Oregon football has been able to do, because no school has more wins combined in football and men's basketball over the last decade than the U of O does. So the rankings, really, I'll be more interested in what it is at the end of the year. 14, though, sounds fine. Ducks are the only team in the Pac-12 that appeared in this week's rankings, which, is that a good thing? I don't know. So, yeah. Anyway, we're going to jump into a few more other things. Quick timeout, and more with Jordan Troester coming up. Trust me, you're going to want to stick around. He talks about what the technology in the Marcus Mariota Sports Performance Center does for individual student athletes. And I found this fascinating, just talking with him about the different things that are available in the Marcus Mariota Sports Performance Center. So we're going to continue with Jordan Troester when we come back. It's Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. We're inside the Country Financial Studio, and we've got more coming up on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
After 2 years of construction, my wife and I finally moved into our dream home. So when a bathtub fixture broke, causing major water damage, I was glad we had the home insurance protection we needed. How do you know your home is protected? Talk to a Country Financial rep like me, Nick Simon. We can help you understand your options and select coverages to meet your needs. Then if something happens to your home, you won't have any surprises. Need the right coverage for your home but not sure where to start? Visit TakeSimpleSteps.com or contact a local country representative.
Mountain Dew Zero Sugar presents an original that's now maybe even better. Mary had a little lamb.
Mary had a bottle of Mountain Dew Zero Sugar with the same refreshing taste as the original, but with zero sugar. Same refreshing taste as the original, but with zero sugar. Same refreshing taste as the original, but with zero sugar. Mary had a bottle of Mountain Dew Zero Sugar. Let's taste was as good as the original, maybe even better.
Mountain Dew Zero Sugar. As good as the original, maybe even better.
Duck Insider continues after this timeout on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
When you went car shopping, you meant business. You aced vehicle history searches and test drives. You out-salesmaned the salesman. Now you've got your wheels. If you manage that, you can get your retirement plan on track. Visiting aceyourretirement.org can help. With 401k tips and smart saving strategies, you'll have the info you need to get more for your future. Go to aceyourretirement.org, because when it comes to speeding past financial challenges, you're an ace. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
GTG, BRB, OMW, be there in a few. You may think that these kinds of texts are fine because of their length, and you can easily send them at a stoplight. But no, answering one text can take your attention away from the road for 5 seconds. And traveling at 55 miles an hour, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Make good decisions, don't text and drive.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
Back inside the Country Financial Studio, it's Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Shadow Hills Country Club offering the perfect combination of rural beauty, great golf, and affordable family entertainment that builds a lifetime of memories. Call for a tour today. Thanks to Shadow Hills Country Club for their support. I understand that a little bit of the smoke is moving back into the area as we continue to think about those that have been affected by the wildfires. Glad that the weather has cooperated over the last few weeks, but it is going to be warm, windy, so everybody remember, stay safe out there. And those of you who have been affected by those tragic wildfires, we're thinking about you. We're all in that one together. I hope that everybody's getting through it okay. And if the weather doesn't continue to be good and gets a little smoky out there, remember, just another reason to wear those masks. Also, hey, we got Richard a mask. I want to remind everybody, because it was actually, this is why you need to have good people in your corner, because neither Scott nor myself put a mask on Richard and never thought to. And then my mom was like, you guys need to have a mask on Richard. Like, what are you doing? And so this is a Mary McMurray original that Richard is currently donning. So, Mom, thanks. I appreciate it. That's true. She made that mask, and I thought, well, we got to put that one up there on Richard now. Also, thanks to our friends at the Duck Store, we're looking at getting Richard some updated swag for the upcoming season, because, it's time for an update, right? Yeah. All right, we're going to continue inside the Marcus Mariota Sports Performance Center. Jordan Troester, we sat down with the director of performance and sports science and talked a little bit just about what's going on in that space and in that industry as well, as we continue our chat with Jordan Troester. Jordan Troester, our guest, he's the director of performance and sports science here at the University of Oregon. And you started in July, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, since July, what about this place has stuck out to you? And the follow-up to that question is, why'd you come to Oregon in the first place?
So, I'll start with the follow-up question. I love collegiate athletics. As a college athlete myself, it just has there's just something special about collegiate athletics, and that environment can't be duplicated anywhere. I mean, the NHL was great, and the athletes, the players themselves were actually really great people and have some solid lasting relationships with that. But to see, 18-year-old kids come into a program, learn, grow, and develop, and oftentimes not go on to be professionals, but go on to do other impactful things with their life. It's just an important and special kind of environment to be in. So I've always kind of held collegiate athletics on a bit of a pedestal in my mind, and always thought in the back of my mind that that'd be an interesting thing and an enjoyable thing to be a part of. So when this opportunity came along, it was definitely a difficult decision because I loved what I was doing in Vegas, but Oregon, just as far as a reputation for sports science and for athletics is unrivaled. And so this was the type of opportunity that, you just couldn't pass up. And so since we've been here, arriving in July, if there's a time to arrive in Eugene, I think it's July.
Yeah.
As we've gotten settled in, I mean, it's just been a beautiful place. We've enjoyed the outdoors. My family and I love just getting out and hiking and enjoying nature. So it's been pretty ideal until the smoke has stolen a couple weeks of summer from us.
Yeah, no doubt. You hit the nail on the head. I'm glad that you recognize that about Oregon already. It's for whatever reason there's this perception that people leave Oregon and go somewhere else in the summer. That's the best time to be here.
100%.
So yeah, you hit the nail on the head. George Troester, our guest, the director of performance and sports science. All right, so you mentioned the reputation of Oregon in the sports science field and particularly in the college realm. Give fans a sense of that. And we've talked about it, that with the Marcus Mariota Sports Performance Center, that Oregon was kind of on the cutting edge of this in the college landscape. Give fans, I guess, a feeling for that. And if you could, if you know the Reddit thread, explain it like I'm 5. Do that for us if you could.
Gotcha. Well, so here's my perception of it. Whether it's true or not, this is the perception that I think exists, is that Oregon's been doing sports science longer than anybody in the collegiate setting. And I think the rumor goes back that Chip Kelly thought that, GPS or player tracking or something was going to be the golden ticket, and got that initiative off the ground. And as a result, from early on, there were some people and processes in place to set the foundations for, and all sports science is trying to use objective data to make better decisions about how to train athletes. That's all it really is. And so from early on, there were some foundations in place. And over time, obviously, the investment from a facilities and staffing standpoint with the Marcus Mariota Performance Center have been a huge part of that, and really laid Oregon as a foundation for a leader across all collegiate athletics in this space. Since then, I think this model has been tried to have been replicated in a lot of different places. Every year, there's about 2 Power 5 schools who build a new facility, and anytime you build a new facility, you just have to one up whoever built one last year. And so it's definitely growing, but I think you can always build facilities and you can always put fancy technology and equipment into places. But what it really comes down to is the people who are on the ground actually using that information to make decisions on a daily basis, and the culture that's established that values that honors the value of that objective information for guiding decision making and putting the student athlete's health and well-being kind of at the center of that process. So I think that's what actually takes the time, is getting coaches and staff across a large organization to share that vision for providing world-class service and experience to the athletes using the technology, resources, and information that are available.
And really it's just the next tool that coaches and athletes have at their disposal, right? I feel like that's the way that I've described it to people before.
Yeah, 100%. And it's just one more tool. It's not the end all be all, and it's never going to take the place of, great coaches and their experience and intuition, but it's going to give them another perspective that helps them be better.
I could tell that you have that perspective of kind of blending all this together. You mentioned that your diverse background in strength and conditioning, you were an athlete yourself. When did you really know that this is what you were going to get into? And you talked a little bit about how you were exposed to the sports performance and science, and I guess just elaborate if you could on that a little bit. Like, when was it like, yeah, this is what I want?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I probably explain it this way. As an athlete, I was never the best, but always wanted to get better. And so I was looking for anything I could find to do that. Strength and conditioning initially, like that was going to be my difference maker. I can work harder there than, anybody else, and I can feel the improvements that I make. So I latched onto that. Eventually, my athletic skill ran out, and so got into coaching and realized I can help others achieve that same level of success through strength and conditioning coaching. And as a coach, I realized what I needed in order to help my athletes improve was to have better information about their strengths, their weaknesses, understanding how they adapt to training and improve over time. And in order to do that, I needed to improve my fundamental understanding of sports science. And so got into research a little bit, and, a small project turned into a big project that became a PhD, and just continued to grow because I knew, for me personally, I needed better knowledge, better skills in order to help my athletes become better. And so from there, as just a sports scientist, to kind of my role now as a director, it's more about now taking our knowledge and understanding from individuals and sharing that across the group so that everybody's working together. We have systems and a shared vision for how we want to use each of our individual expertise, our experience and intuition, how we're going to communicate and collaborate in order to provide that best experience and that optimal training plan. Because it all comes back to probably what I wanted as an athlete, and what we want to provide to our athletes is just give them what they need to be their best.
Good stuff from Jordan Troester. He is the Director of Performance and Sports Science here at Oregon. Started in July, and you heard him talking there about that's been an adjustment for sure, and we're continuing to adjust to this new world. We're going to continue our conversation with him coming up. Today's show brought to you by Jackson's Food Stores, proud sponsor of the University of Oregon Ducks. Stop by your neighborhood Jackson's for all your game day essentials. Everyday specials on game day necessities. You'll be ready for anything the big game brings. Go Ducks. Looking forward to great Ducks tonight, talking tight ends. I've got my list put together. It was a lot of fun going through the tight end records. And I got to say, shout out to Patrick Pearson, Todd Miles, Greg Walker, Darren Eha, Zach Lawson, Nate Kruger, Rob Mosley, and everybody else who went through and put together the Oregon Football Record Book. They actually revamped it for this year. Awesome, awesome work. Made going through and putting together our Great Ducks show and all the stats and information just so much more fun and just so easy for people like me that just pretend to know what we're talking about. So I want to just say thanks to the communication staff that actually keeps track of all of these things. Really, really fun. Tight ends coming up tonight on Great Ducks, 5 o'clock across the Oregon Sports Network. And you can watch live on the Oregon Football Facebook page, Oregon Football Twitter, and the Go Ducks YouTube channel as well. Coming up, more of your Facebook comments and questions. Also, Jordan Troester, part 3 of our interview with the man in charge of the Marcus Mariota Sports Performance Center. Stuck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union, back inside the Country Financial Studio after this on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union. Join in. OnPointCU.com. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
All it takes is one drop to make a wave. One beat to inspire a track. One spark to get creativity flowing. With every drop, Life Water refreshes your mind and restores your body. Purified water, pH balanced with electrolytes for taste. Designed with original works of art on every bottle. Let us be your source of inspiration. Life Water, the feel-good water.
Duck Insider, your home for the latest news on Oregon athletics. This is the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
Hey everyone, let's all stop what we're doing and take a moment. You see? Every moment can be kind of special. But they can be loud moments, goofy moments, dorky moments, it doesn't matter. Because every time dads like us take a moment like that to spend with our kids, well, it's pretty momentous. So let's take a moment to make a moment. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Hello, it's me, the designer jeans in the back of your closet. What happened to us? I used to summer in the Hamptons, and now I'm stuck behind a pair of sweats. Okay, maybe I never really fit you right, but I got a lot more Sunday fun days left in me. So take me to Goodwill, where I can really make a difference.
Your donations to Goodwill create jobs, training programs, and education assistance for people in your community. To find your nearest donation center, go to goodwill.org. Donate stuff, create jobs. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union inside the Country Financial Studio. Lost power back in the radio studio, though. That's not supposed to happen. That's like, what? It's you. I was just going to say, like, that's 2020. I don't get it. Like, why does this stuff keep happening? Hey, shout out to John Essick back there, though, and Bob as well, because they got it back like that. Trust me, that's hard to do. So shout out to those guys for getting us back up and running on the radio side. But, yeah, so what? Could you cut us some slack here, 2020? God. Anyway, Jordan Troester, continuing our conversation with the Director of Performance and Sports Science. It was a really great conversation, just learning more about that industry and just what they're doing in the Marcus Mariota Sports Performance Center on a daily basis. Cool stuff. We continue with part 3 of our interview with the Director of Performance and Sports Science. You know, I'm curious now, just what does the day look like for you? I mean, obviously this is a very unique time. What does a day look like in your job right now?
Yeah, so I suppose every day is a little bit different, which is what I enjoy. I spend time in the office probably plugging away on what a lot of it is actually become data management. And if you'd told me 10 years ago, I would enjoy looking at numbers and like figuring them out, I would have said you were crazy.
Yeah.
But over time, it's actually something that I've come to enjoy. It's like, wow, I can build something that takes data and provides information, and that's pretty exciting to me. So I spend plenty of time doing that, but then I also get to spend plenty of time interacting with athletes at practice or at training, interacting with coaches and medical staff, talking about where the athletes are at, what they need, planning out, seasons, right? So sitting down with lacrosse later today and saying, okay, here's what our fall season is going to look like. We've never had a season like this. Our athletes haven't been in any sort of formal training for the last 6 months.
Right.
How are we going to keep them healthy? And how are we going to focus on the skill development and the physical development that is going to be best for them during this block of the season? And the strength and conditioning coach is involved, nutrition's involved, athletic medicine involved, coaching staff is involved. And that's really exciting for me to just be able to create plans and systems that try to optimize that process.
We talked a little bit about the growth of this industry, particularly in the college space, but I kind of want to go back to the history of it a little bit for you. I know that Australia has really adopted this in their culture, as you alluded to. Could you expand on that a little bit and just the way that they go about it in that country with their athletes and how it's really, to me, it seems like it's influenced the entire world?
Yeah, I mean, whether it's true or not, I think that's the perception. Australia is kind of the birthplace of sports science, and they've obviously made a big investment to it. I think historically it goes back to the 2000 Olympic Games when there was hosted in Sydney. There was a big kind of governmental push to, make an impact on their country's performance, and they invested a lot of resources into it. From that has come, though, it's really a culture. Some of it's technology, some of it's knowledge and processes, but it's a culture of, I suppose, coaches valuing information to make decisions. It's a culture of different stakeholders within an organization working together to provide that service and with the athletes' best interest in mind. And it's the culture of the athletes accepting that we're going to ask you to participate in this process, right? We're going to collect information from you. You're going to wear this wearable tracking device during practice. We're going to ask you questions about how you slept, your mood, your fatigue, your soreness. We're going to ask you those questions first thing in the morning, and we're going to use all that information. You need to trust us because it's all with your best interest in mind. So it's really just that culture, and it's probably struggled in its translation to North America because coaches have done things the way they've always done them. And why are you telling me this information? It's not going to change what I do. Athletes are maybe less trusting. To be honest, the money here is a lot bigger and contracts are a big deal. And if you're putting this chip on my back and you think I'm getting a little bit slower and you're not going to sign me to that next big contract, then I've got a lot to lose. So there's a lot of factors. And I think part of it's just growth, right? It's been in place and that culture has had 20 years to develop in the Southern Hemisphere, whereas here in North America, we're maybe 5 years into it. So it's just something that takes time.
Take fans inside, if you could, the Marcus Mariota Sports Performance Center. I mean, a lot of people have seen the pictures. I obviously have had the chance to walk through it, though it's been since like February with everything going on for me. Similar, like we were talking before we hit record here, the Jordan hasn't even been up to the second floor of the Casanova Center yet, and his office is literally right below us. And it's just these are the times that we live in. So take fans inside what that facility is like, how you guys utilize the technology that's at your disposal.
Yeah, I mean, it's really as good as it gets when it comes to just the technology and resources that we have here available to us. And for me, it all comes down to a couple things, right? Profiling an athlete's strengths and weaknesses. So a lot of what we do is what we call performance testing, but periodically we'll get athletes in to perform some tests where looking at their strength, their power. We use a lot of force plates to assess those types of things, jump tests and some isometric tests. Again, I think I looked around the room the other day, and if you look, they're all embedded in the floor, but you can't, look around without seeing a force plate. I think we have somewhere around 24, 26 force plates just embedded in the floor and all over the place up here. So there's some really cool stuff we can do. We can use some high-speed video to capture the movements of our athletes. And so it's, cameras mounted in the ceiling and those types of things. We have some special equipment for looking at their aerobic capacity and looking at hamstring injury risk and some of those types of things. So really the sky's the limit as far as what you want to look at. And what we have to focus on is understanding really the profile and demands of their sport. So what are those common injury risks, right? And then let's work backwards from our common injury risks and look at the physical factors, the biomechanical factors that might predispose an athlete towards that injury. If we can identify that, then we can work with strength and conditioning and athletic medicine to put a system and a process in place to try to improve those qualities to prevent injury. And so a lot of that's what we're kind of focused on as we do this. But it's the sky's the limit as far as what we're able to do here.
And it takes a team. I love that you've come back to that a few times. It really does take a team. And I think people often see the student athletes, they see the coaches, but there's so many other people behind the scenes. And Jordan, I feel like that, everything that you've talked about, it just really illustrates that there is a team behind the team, huh?
Oh, 100%. And again, I think that's whether you talk about sports science or high performance, that's really at the heart of it is that communication and collaboration amongst that team that allows those athletes to be at their best. And I think everybody's chasing that.
Finally, I'm curious, as we talk about this, and you were an athlete, are you seeing more and more student athletes? I'm not sure how much you've really been able to, now that I think about this, interact with a lot of student athletes in person like you hopefully will sooner than later with this pandemic. Do you see more and more student athletes getting interested in being like, you know what, I think I want to do something in this field when I graduate?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely growing. They're getting more exposure. I mean, this didn't exist when I was a student athlete. I mean, it just wasn't even on the radar. And I am fortunate that, I got a good 8 or 9 weeks of football prep, kind of before we all took a pause there. And that's one of the things that we really try to do is make sure anytime we're collecting information from an athlete, we're feeding them back feedback on their performance. So we want the athlete themselves to be engaged in this as much as anything, because that's going to motivate them. That's going to help them just increase their personal awareness of their performance. They're ultimately the ones who are responsible for that. So the more that we can just expose them to the information that we're collecting it, what it means, how we use it to help them be better, it's going to help them take more ownership and autonomy in that process. And yeah, I think ultimately they get exposed to that. They realize, oh, there's a career in sports that allows me to kind of be a part of this environment, continue on, help other people. And it's just another option for them. So.
Jordan Troester, Director of Performance and Sports Science, this was outstanding. Thanks for taking us kind of behind the curtain of what you do, and welcome to Oregon. I can't say that enough. I wish that we were able to do this in person. Normally, instead of you being on a TV screen over here, I promise we got a big comfy leather chair for you whenever we can do this in person eventually. So looking forward to meeting you in person. And, hey, thanks for doing this. This was outstanding.
Yeah, my pleasure.
That was a lot of fun catching up with Jordan Troester. I thought that it was cool to meet him and just talk about that industry. I thought that it was educational, to say the least. And, boy, there's so much in that building. And, we talk so much about the technology. We talk so much about all these different things that the student-athletes have and people like Jordan are working with. But it's also about the people. I mean, you can see the passion that Jordan has for what he does. That's a huge reason why there's a lot of success around the Marcus Mariota Sports Performance Center as an extension of all of Oregon athletics. One other guy that I want to shout out to in that office and in the Marcus Mariota Sports Performance Center is Ben Mckay. We're actually going to talk with Ben, who handles more of the kind of the day-to-day of working with student athletes as the coordinator of the sports performance and sports science department here at Oregon. We're going to talk with him. I'm planning on Friday. So we have the interview actually with Ben already done, and I've got it scheduled for Friday. So assuming nothing wild happens in the next few days, which at this rate I don't know, we have no idea. Scott and I have been producing the show on like a 24-hour notice basically, which is really not how we usually do Duck Insider.
It's not ideal.
Well, it's 2020.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk with Ben, though, and it was really interesting talking with Ben about, what the day-to-day looks like of what they're doing in the MMSPC, which is one of the hardest abbreviations to say. Say it with me. MMSPC. MMSPC. You can't say it that fast. Marcus Mariota Sports Performance Center. And I missed one. MMSPC. MMSPC. Whew. It does take practice. It's not an alliteration. I guess it is a little bit with the MM, but it's a tough abbreviation. Abbreviations are supposed to be things that are either easy to say or they make their own word on their own. Now that I say that, I can't even think of a good example of one that actually makes a word on its own. They're all just letters. NCAA, NFL, NBA. GOAT. Yep, greatest of all time. All right, we're going to break with that. It's Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union, back inside the Country Financial Studio after this on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
As my family continued to grow, I realized I'd have to replace my beloved Jeep with something that has, more seats. I'm Jason Hines, Country Financial Rep and father of 7. Whether you're upgrading from your sporty ride with no room for a car seat or finally replacing your well-loved beater that still has a cassette player, you'll want the right protection for your new car. Work with a Country Financial Rep like me and get the protection you need at a price you can afford. Learn more at TakeSimpleSteps.com or contact a local Country representative.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union. Join in. OnPointCU.com. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
This is Duck Insider. Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the lingo.
Hundo P. Hundo P. Adjective. Short for being 100% sure or certain. As in, if we get a puppy, I'll Hundo P always walk it.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care would love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yep, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
Back on Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union, inside the Country Financial Studio. And today, a long version of our Oregon Imaging Center's Inside Look, a proud sponsor of the University of Oregon Athletic Department, established in 1988. Oregon Imaging Centers would like to remind you that you have a voice in choosing your medical imaging provider. Choose quality, choose service, choose Oregon Imaging Centers. The choice is yours. A long look inside the Marcus Mariota Sports Performance Center. And I thought, talking with Jordan Troester, that's the perfect connection with our Oregon Imaging Center's Inside Look. With all they're doing with technology, it just seemed to fit, and I thought that was a fun long version of that feature today. Well, we've got great Ducks coming up tonight. The tight end position will be featured across the Oregon Sports Network at 5 o'clock. If you're tuning into Duck Insider later on, we do the show live from 1 to 2, but on one of our OSN affiliate stations, maybe you're listening a little later, you can find Great Ducks via our podcast. Subscribe to the Oregon Sports Network podcast on your podcast service of choice. Just give us search for the Oregon Sports Network podcast. And thanks for those of you who have done that and downloaded the podcast. It helps when you rate the podcast, because the more ratings there are, the more people can see it when they search for an Oregon Ducks podcast, which, it's just good for everybody. Shameless plug. Great Ducks also, though, on the Oregon football social media channels on Facebook and on Twitter tonight, as we will highlight the tight end position. Next week, we're actually going to do safeties and linebackers in one show. I got to tell you, I was doing my linebackers list today. I already did my safeties list. There's a lot of good linebackers that have played at Oregon. And, man, there's some guys in the 70s that tackled the football. Seems like every year in the 70s they had a record-breaking tackle season for Oregon football linebackers. So it's going to be tough to narrow that down. That's Duck Insider for today. We'll see you on the show tomorrow.
I'm probably okay to have one more drink before I drive home. I'm probably okay. I open the window to stay alert. Probably okay. I just popped some gum in my mouth.
Step out of the car, please.
I probably made a mistake.
Probably okay isn't okay when it comes to drinking and driving.